Okay, I got a 2008 Chevy Suburban and it will not go into park. What I have to do is, once I'm out driving around, let's say I come to a stop and it won't go into park. No matter how hard I force it up, it will not go into park. However, if I put it in neutral and then coast a little bit, and it still won't go into park, coast a little bit, and then finally I can get it into park. That's the issue. The problem is when you take the car out of park and depending on where the parking pawl stops, I'm going to turn the drive shaft, you can't get it back into park. And I'm going to try and do that. It won't go back into park. It gets stuck. And the problem is, I figured it out, is this guy right here. And the problem is, this spring isn't working. What happened is this little piece on the end broke off and it's got serrated. And I will show you when I pull the old one out, but it basically then this sticks and it won't allow the spring to go back. So basically it would be not moving, and it wouldn't allow you to go into park unless, if you were lucky, you'd stop right at a spot where the parking pawl would go into a groove. But if it didn't and the spring wasn't working, it would stick there, you couldn't get the shifter into park. I actually found, if you're lucky, this is the piece that broke right on the end. I found it in the pan on the magnet right here. So if you're lucky, you will see that piece in the pan on the magnet when this breaks. Alright, you can pause it. I won't be doing a lot of talking, I'll just be, you gotta take this nut off at the end here, holding on the shift lever. It's a 15 millimeter. Right here. And once you do that, this lever, it might be corroded and stuck, but pry it and it'll come off. Remember the orientation of it. And then there's 13 millimeters. Grab a 13 millimeter wrench and you're going to take off the neutral safety switch. There's one, and there's two of them. You will have to disconnect the electrical connector to get to the other point. Use a 90 pick and this connector. Can you see that there's a blue tab that you have to release? And then you pull down on this. Can you see that? See? Let me know if you ever can't see.
Yeah, I can.
And then you pull down and it pops out. Now with this connector out of the way, you can go ahead and grab a wrench on the other bolt holding the neutral safety switch in. Get this connector out of the way. By the way, when you're in here, you'll want to replace the transmission pan and new gasket too, which I already have ordered. Now I'm getting this second bolt off. And this, I actually replaced this neutral safety switch. I got a new one for it because I took the old one off and it was like hard to turn and it was crunching and crackling inside. And I'll show you. This just slides off like this. Be careful with it. And you take this off. There is a groove. Basically this groove here needs to be lined up with that dot when the vehicle's in neutral. So this is adjustable, of course. See, it's slotted. But you have that groove there lined up with that dot when it's in neutral. It's off. The next step is to remove this lever here, which is the detent, I believe they call it, for the parking pawl. It's a 13 millimeter also. Almost everything on here is 13 millimeters. Now there's pressure behind it. Remember the way that's orientated too. I'm actually going to grab my, speed this up a little bit. Take that all the way off, set it aside. Now the next step is there's a lever in here, like a little spacer cap that you got to pull off. Careful, it'll probably fly off. But it pops off. It's a little hard. Like I said, it'll probably fly off. Here's what it looks like. It's just a little, keeps it in line. Is the lighting good, see? Can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, once you get that off, there's a nut here. And you can spin this off with a wrench. It is a 15 millimeter, I believe. But once you get that nut loose, this whole shaft here will pull out. Like so. See that? So I'm going to pull this shaft. Mark the orientation. You don't really have to, but I marked it with yellow paint. But don't lose your nut. And pull this shaft all the way out. Sometimes it'll stick a little bit, but just wiggle it and give it a good pull. Sometimes you can put pressure on the back side too and pull it all the way out. And then there's the shaft. Note the orientation of it. Oh, let me know when you're on.
It's on.
Okay, I got this piece out. This is the old one. And if you'll see on this one, see how it sticks? And the top piece is broken and it's serrated and it sticks. And if it twists in a certain spot, like right now, I can't even pull it down. And that's what happens. And you can't put it in park there. See right there? See? Now the new one, if you look at the new one, right here, it's got that little ball on the top. So this one's broke, this one's the new one. And I did have to go to the dealership to get this. It looks like it's got a revised part or something. It looks a little bit different, but I gave them the VIN number. So anyways, if you're having trouble getting your GM 5.3 liter into, I'm working on a Suburban, into park, check this parking actuator, they call it. Parking lock actuator. And again, if you're lucky, you'll find that end piece in the pan on the magnet. It did have a little bit of a different bend to it and a couple more tabs, but I gave the dealership the VIN number, so it's the correct part. So if it's a little bit different, looks like they got an updated part to it. But the part number, can you zoom in on that? Is 242-35438 is the part number. And then I'm going back together. I noted how I took everything out, and I got my nut back on. You have to, before you put the, can you see up here? Before you put this in its little groove here, this shaft, you got to put the nut on first. Don't forget that. Everything looks like it's clearing just fine. So that is the right part, it looks like. And go ahead and tighten that down. Okay, cut. So when you're tightening up this nut, I just get a pair of vice grips, hold this rod, and then you can snake a wrench in here and tighten it up. Tighten it up as much as you can by hand, and then get your wrench in here. It is a 15 millimeter. Just get it nice and snug. You can rotate the shaft if you need to a little bit to get a better grip on the nut. Try not to mar up the shaft too much. Okay, that's on there. Make sure you got your little rod here. Can you see it real good? Here, come stand over here and shine on it through here on my side. Come here, like right here.
I can see it.
Okay. Make sure you got your rod in here, so when this turns, it moves this shift cylinder in and out. And you can verify operation. I'm going to turn this shaft so that the parking pawl is not lined up. And when you come over here, stand right here, Kelsey. No, right here. Look. I want you to focus right in here on this spring. Okay? Now, when you try and put it in park, what happens is that spring, if that parking pawl is not lined up, you should still be able to put it in park. See that spring working?
No.
You can't see it?
No.
Okay, let's stand here. What happens is the parking pawl is not lined up, that spring should compress. In other words, this piece should move back, and then when the parking pawl lines up, snap into place, and then you're in park. So if I move this drive shaft a little bit back so the parking pawl is lined up, you will see that it indeed, you gotta line it up just perfect.
Where?
Just focus on the spring.
Where?
This spring right here. And now
Where?
we're in park. Can you, right on the tip of my finger.
Oh.
So now it's in park, see? Okay, shut it off. Make sure you clean the pan off real good. Get yourself a new gasket. And I already replaced the filter. Let me see if there's a zoom out. There's got to be a way to zoom out. Oh, here we go. Oh, there's the zoom in. And just to recap, my daughter was doing, my 8-year-old daughter was doing the filming earlier. I don't know how much good she actually did, but let me try and show you. There's the new part right there. And it's a rod that goes all the way back, connects to that lever right there. And earlier I said make sure that you have that lever attached to that shift cylinder there. But that in a nutshell is why this thing wouldn't go into park. Once again, when you tried to put this into park, that spring would not work. Let me turn the shaft so that the parking pawl is not lined up, and you'll see the spring do its action here. See, now it's not lined up, but that spring, when that piece moves, it compresses that spring and it enables you to still put it in park. And then when the vehicle rolls a little bit, ting, when it lines back up, it'll go and snap in. But once again, this piece right here broke off at the end of this tip and caused And by the way, I found that in the valley pan. It caused this piece here to stick and the spring wouldn't compress, and you can never get into park if the parking paws weren't lined up. But parking actuator. Okay, with the fix all done, let's test it out, see if we can. So we're driving along, come to a stop, and it now goes into park very easily. Reverse, driving along. See if I can zoom out a little bit. Oops, that's as far as I can zoom out. And it'll go into park. Reverse, driving along, neutral, drive, come to a stop. No matter where I stop, it'll now go into park. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps you. Again, this is Eric Black from EB Automotive. I hope this helps. Thanks.